The city woke to the sound of alarms. The crystal towers that once glowed with peace now trembled with fear. Flames licked the edges of the lower districts, and the skies burned red as ships circled above. The rebels had come. Daniel stood on the high balcony, watching smoke rise into the night, his fists clenched, his heart pounded with the knowledge that this was no small strike. This was war. The hidden enemy had stepped out of the shadows. Lyra appeared beside him, her robes torn, her face pale but fierce. "They are attacking the heart of the city," she said, her voice sharp. "The council halls, the power lines, even the nurseries, they mean to destroy everything. They mean to destroy you." Daniel's soldier instincts took over. He grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, its crystal blade glowing with energy. He turned to Lyra. "Then we fight." The streets below were chaos. Rebels in black cloaks poured through the gates, their weapons burning through walls and flesh alike. The guards fought back, but they were scattered, disorganized. They had never faced such fury. Daniel led the charge, cutting through the rebels with swift, brutal strikes. His body remembered every battle from Earth, every fight for survival. He was outnumbered, but he was human, and humans had always thrived in impossible odds. Lyra fought at his side, her hands glowing with power. Energy waves burst from her palms, shattering weapons and walls. For the first time, Daniel saw her not as the council's chain, but as a warrior, a flame refusing to die. Together, they carved a path through the chaos. But the rebels were not simple. They were organized. They shouted his name as they fought, their leader's voice echoing through the streets. "The human is a curse. Kill him, and the future is ours." Daniel's breath grew heavy, sweat and blood streaking his face. He blocked one strike, dodged another. His blade cut through armor, his fist broke bone. But even as he fought, he realized the truth. This was not just about him. The rebels wanted to tear the entire people apart. They wanted fear to spread. Then came the moment that changed everything. A blast shook the ground, throwing Daniel into the dust. His ears rang as he stumbled to his knees. Through the smoke, he saw the rebels storming the nursery, where the youngest of the alien children were kept. "No!" Lyra gasped, her face white with terror. She ran forward, but a wall of fire blocked her path. Daniel's chest burned with rage. He forced himself to his feet, charging through the flames. The heat seared his skin, but he did not stop. He tackled the rebels at the door, his blade flashing, his fist striking. One by one, they fell. He shielded the children with his body. Every strike aimed to protect them. The rebels shouted, cursed, bled, but Daniel would not let them pass. He stood like a wall of flesh and fire, unbreakable. When the smoke cleared, silence fell. The children were safe, clinging to Lyra. The rebels had fled, leaving bodies behind. Daniel collapsed to one knee, blood running down his arms, his breath ragged. Lyra rushed to him, her hands glowing as she tried to heal his wounds. Her voice trembled. "You fool! You nearly killed yourself." Daniel managed a weak smile. "Better me than them." Tears filled her eyes, not just from fear, but from something deeper. She cupped his face in her hands, whispering, "You are more than they deserve, more than I deserve." The council arrived hours later, their robes torn, their faces pale. They looked at the burning city, at the broken walls, at the human kneeling among the children. For the first time, their voices carried no argument, no division. The High Chancellor spoke, his voice heavy. "The human has saved us. He has proven his worth. He has stood where none of us could." But Daniel was not listening to them. His eyes were on Lyra, her hand still in his, her gaze burning with something the council could never command. That night, as the fires slowly died, Daniel knew one thing with certainty. The council had chosen him as their tool. The rebels had hunted him as their curse. But he had chosen his own path. He had chosen to fight, to protect, to love. And though the city still burned, hope rose with the smoke. The great hall of the council was silent, but the silence was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Thousands of glowing pillars lit the chamber, each one holding the mark of a powerful elder. Alien eyes of every shape and color stared down from the high seats. all fixed on one single figure, a human, alone, standing in the middle of the circle. His name was Daniel, and he could feel his heartbeat pounding in his ears. He had never imagined being here, never thought he would be summoned before the most powerful rulers of an alien world. The air was thick with whispers, though no mouths moved. The alien spoke in a language of thought, voices pressing into his mind, making him feel small and weak. "The vote is complete." A deep voice echoed through the hall. It belonged to the High Chancellor, a tall figure with skin that shimmered like glass. His eyes glowed like fire, and his voice carried power that made Daniel's knees tremble. "The council has decided your fate." Daniel swallowed. He wanted to speak, to ask what this meant, but the weight of thousands of eyes kept his mouth closed. The council had spoken. He was nothing more than a single man against their entire will. "You will serve as the chosen," the chancellor declared. The word echoed, bouncing around the chamber like thunder. "Your duty is to restore what we have lost. You are bound to our survival. And through you, our future will be rebuilt." The crowd erupted. Some aliens bowed their heads. Others hissed in anger. The word chosen carried both honor and curse. Daniel had heard whispers before, rumors of what it meant. It was not only about survival. It was about repopulation, about carrying the burden of an entire dying race. Fear gripped him, his chest tightened as he struggled to breathe. He had never asked for this, never volunteered. He was just a soldier who had crashed on their planet. Now he was a prisoner, and more than that, he was their hope. An elder rose from his seat, her voice sharper than steel. "This human is weak. He cannot bear the duty." Her skin rippled like liquid metal, her gaze piercing into Daniel's soul. "He will fail, and we will all perish." Another voice rose in reply, softer but firm. "The human is stronger than you think. He survived the crash. He walked through the fire plains alone. He carries the spirit of survival. He may be the one we need." The council divided. Some argued, some defended. Daniel stood frozen, his fists clenched at his side. Every word spoken about him burned into his mind. He was not asked. He was not given choice. He was judged. Then the High Chancellor lifted his hand, and silence returned. "The decision is made," he said, his voice cut through the hall like a blade. "Unanimous, irrevocable. The human will take the duty of repopulation. His life now belongs to us." The word unanimous echoed in Daniel's head. His fate had been sealed by creatures who did not even ask him. His throat felt dry. His voice cracked as he finally spoke. "And if I refuse?" The hall shook with a wave of psychic energy, thousands of voices pressing into him at once. The Chancellor's eyes flared. "There is no refusal. The survival of our people is above your will. You will do as commanded, or you will not live to see another dawn." Daniel felt his knees weaken. His mind raced. He wanted to fight, to scream, but deep inside, a strange thought formed. If he refused, he would die. If he obeyed, he might live, and maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to control his own fate. The hall doors opened. A figure stepped forward, her steps light, but her presence strong. She was different from the others. Her eyes were not cold, but filled with fire. She wore robes of silver, and her face was half hidden behind a veil. The council bowed slightly as she passed. She was someone important, someone powerful. "This is Lyra," the Chancellor said. His tone shifted, carrying respect. "She will guide you. She is of royal blood, and she will ensure you fulfill your duty." Daniel's eyes met hers. For a moment, he saw no hatred, no fear, only curiosity. Her gaze pierced him, but unlike the others, it did not crush him. It tested him. It weighed him. Lyra spoke, her voice soft yet sharp. "You carry the fate of our people. Human, do not think this is only your burden. It is mine as well." Daniel felt a shiver run through him. For the first time, he realized he was not alone. Someone else was bound to this fate, someone who might hate him or perhaps understand him. The council rose as one. The sound of their movement shook the hall. The judgment was over. His fate was sealed. Daniel stood straighter. His fear was still there, heavy and cold, but beneath it, a spark lit in his chest. They had decided his fate, but maybe, just maybe, he could turn it into something else. The doors closed behind him as he was led away, the whispers of the council fading. But in his mind, one thought burned stronger than fear. The alien city stretched before Daniel like a vision from another world. Tall spires of crystal reached into the sky, glowing with their own light. Bridges of silver curved gracefully between towers, and streams of energy pulsed through the air like living rivers. It should have been beautiful, but to Daniel it felt cold, silent, and heavy with expectation. He was marched through wide streets where thousands of aliens stood in silence. Their eyes followed him, glowing with suspicion. Some whispered words he could not understand. Others turned away in disgust. To them, he was not a guest, not a savior. He was a tool, a piece of flesh chosen to serve. At his side walked Lyra, the veiled princess. Her steps were light, but her posture was stiff. She did not look at him, nor speak. Yet Daniel could feel her presence pressing against his thoughts. She was part of the council's will, bound to guide him, bound to watch every choice he made. The path led to a high tower overlooking the city. The walls inside shimmered with strange patterns that seemed alive. Daniel was given a chamber. Not a prison, not a home, a place between freedom and captivity. He sat on the edge of a crystal bench, his fists clenched. His fate was no longer his own. Night came quickly on this alien world. The skies burned with 2 moons, casting pale light across the towers. Daniel could not sleep. His thoughts raced. His life as a soldier on Earth felt like a distant dream. Now he was the chosen, a title he had never asked for. The door slid open without sound. Lyra entered, her veil removed. Her face was striking, sharp yet gentle. Her eyes glowed faintly. Filled with curiosity and hidden pain, she studied him for a long moment before speaking. "You are troubled," she said. Her voice was calm, almost soothing. Daniel laughed bitterly. "Troubled? I was dragged before your council, judged without choice, and forced into a future I don't understand. What do you think?" Her gaze did not waver. "You are not the only one bound by duty. Human, my life is tied to this decision as much as yours. If you fail, I fail. If you suffer, I suffer." Daniel frowned, studying her. "So you don't want this either?" Lyra's lips tightened. "One is irrelevant. Our people are dying. Our children are few. The council believes you are the key to survival. I am here to make sure that survival is real." Silence fell between them. Daniel could see the weight in her eyes. She was not his jailer. She was his mirror, both trapped in the same cage. Days turned into weeks. Daniel was shown the alien world. He saw their farms struggling to grow food, their cities half empty, and their children fewer than he had fingers to count. The burden grew heavier with every step. He was not just one man anymore. He was the fragile thread holding an entire civilization. Yet everywhere he went, he felt the hatred, aliens spitting words at him, guards watching his every move, children hiding behind their mothers when he passed. He was not a savior to them. He was an intruder. One evening, Daniel stood on the balcony of his chamber, watching the twin moons rise. Lyra joined him, her presence quiet but unshakable. "You think I cannot see your fear," she said, "but fear can be strength. Fear means you care about what happens. Many of my people have no fear left, only despair." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I didn't choose this, but if I have to carry it, then I will carry it my way. Not as their slave, not as their tool, but as myself." For the first time, Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then perhaps there is hope," she said. Hope, the word echoed in his mind, fragile but alive. But the city around them did not share that hope. Rumors spread like fire. Rumors of rebellion, of factions inside the council that despised the human. Some said he would fail. Others said he must not succeed. Daniel felt the weight pressing harder. He was not only fighting for survival. He was walking into a war he barely understood. Yet in the quiet of that night, under the gaze of 2 alien moons, he made a promise to himself. If his fate was to rebuild a future for these people, then he would do it on his own terms. Not because the council demanded it, but because deep inside, he still believed in humanity's power to endure. He looked at Lyra, standing at his side, bound by the same chains. Perhaps together, they could turn duty into something more. And though the city slept, shadows moved in its corners, eyes watched from the dark, and knives were already being sharpened. Daniel did not know it yet, but his fight was only beginning. The days in the alien city grew heavier for Daniel. Each sunrise reminded him that he was not free, that every step he took was being watched by countless eyes. The council had decided his fate, but the whispers in the streets told him the truth. Many of the people despised it. He walked the crystal corridors with Lyra at his side, always silent, always watching. Her presence had become familiar. Though not comforting, she was his guide, his guard, and his judge, and yet Daniel could not deny the strange pull he felt when their eyes met. It was not trust, not yet, but something more than suspicion. One evening, Daniel was taken to the archives of the city. The place was ancient, filled with towers of glowing stones that pulsed with memory. The alien scholars bowed before Lyra, ignoring him completely. As she guided him through the halls, she finally spoke, her voice sharp but curious. Do humans always resist their destiny so fiercely? Daniel smirked. We don't like being told what to do. Her eyes narrowed. Duty is not a choice. It is survival. Maybe for you, Daniel said, his voice low. But for me, survival has always been about choosing when the odds say I can't. For the first time, she paused, her gaze softening. In that moment, Daniel saw the weight she carried. Her duty was as much a prison as his. She was royal blood, yet she was bound to this path as tightly as he was. That night, under the glow of the twin moons, they stood on the balcony of the tower. Silence stretched between them until Lyra finally spoke. My people see you as a weapon, she said. The council sees you as a tool, but I do not know what I see yet. Daniel turned to her, his jaw tense. And what do you want to see? Her lips parted as if to answer, but no words came. Instead, she looked away, her veil fluttering in the cool wind. He realized then that she was just as uncertain, trapped between fear and something she dared not admit. The bond between them grew slowly, like fire beneath ash. He began to notice the way she lingered when she spoke to him, the way her voice softened when others were not listening, and she began to see the fire in him, the human will that refused to bend. But the bond was dangerous, forbidden. The council had made it clear. His duty was to the survival of the species, not to his heart. Any sign of attachment would be seen as weakness. One night, Daniel found her waiting in the chamber, her veil gone, her face illuminated by the moons. She looked at him not as the chosen, not as the council's tool, but as a man. Why do you not hate me? She asked quietly. I am the one tied to your fate. I am the chain that binds you. Daniel stepped closer, his voice steady. Because I see more than a chain, I see someone carrying a weight just like mine. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, she let her guard fall. You should not say such things, she whispered. It is forbidden. Then let it be forbidden, Daniel said. The space between them vanished. For a moment, there were no council laws, no duties, no eyes watching from above. There was only a human and an alien princess, bound not by chains, but by something neither had expected. Yet even as their bond grew, danger moved in the shadows. Whispers of rebellion grew louder. A faction within the council spread lies, that the human was corrupting the princess, that he sought power, that he would destroy them all. The very thing that gave them strength together was also the weapon their enemies would use against them. Daniel felt it in the way the guards looked at him, in the way the air grew colder when he walked through the halls. He was not only fighting for acceptance, he was fighting for survival. But when Lyra's hand brushed against his, when her eyes met his in secret moments, he knew one truth. Whatever the council had decided, whatever fate was forced upon them, they were no longer just prisoner and guide. They were something more, something dangerous, something forbidden. And in the silence of that night, as the city slept under the twin moons, Daniel realized that the council could control his body, but not his heart. And maybe, just maybe, his heart would be the one thing that could change everything. The city of crystal towers shone brightly in the light of the twin moons. but beneath its beauty, shadows moved with quiet intent. Daniel could feel it every day. The stares were colder, the whispers sharper. Even the guards who once ignored him now kept their hands closer to their weapons. Something was changing, and not for the better. Lyra noticed it too. Her calm face hid little from him now. "The council is divided," she said one evening as they walked through the silent gardens. "Some believe you will save us. Others believe you will destroy us. The ones who fear you, they will not stay silent for long." Daniel frowned, his instincts as a soldier sharpening. "Then it's not just hatred. It's something more. They're planning something." Lyra nodded, her voice low. "There are those in the council who want you to fail. If you fail, they can say the prophecy was wrong. They can take control of the future. And if you succeed, they lose their power." It was no longer just about duty, Daniel realized. It was about politics, about power. He was caught in the middle of a game he never agreed to play. The first sign came 2 nights later. He returned to his chamber to find the crystal walls scorched, the floor cracked. Someone had tried to burn the room from the inside. The guards called it an accident, but Daniel knew better. He had seen sabotage before, and this was no accident. The second sign came with food, a silver tray delivered by servants, glowing with strange fruit. Lyra stopped him before he could touch it. Her eyes narrowed as she scanned the colors. She pressed a crystal shard against one of the fruits. It turned black instantly. "Poison," she whispered. "They want you gone." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then let them try. They'll find I don't die so easily." But the danger grew bolder. One evening as Daniel walked the corridors, shadows detached themselves from walls. 3 cloaked figures surrounded him, weapons glowing in their hands. "You are not our savior," one hissed. "You are the death of our people." Daniel fought like the soldier he once was, his fist slammed into one attacker. His knee drove into another. He moved with speed born of survival. But there were too many. Their weapons cut across his arms, burning his flesh. He stumbled, certain he was finished, until light burst through the corridor. Lyra, her hands raised, unleashed a wave of energy that threw the attackers back. Her eyes burned with fury as the air crackled with power. The rebels screamed before fleeing into the shadows. Daniel leaned against the wall, blood on his arm, his breath heavy. "You saved me." Her voice shook. "Do not thank me. I am bound to you if you die. I fail, and if I fail, my people die." But Daniel saw the truth in her eyes. It was not only duty. There was something else, something she could not say. The council gathered the next day. Their voices thundered through the great hall. Some demanded his execution, saying the attack proved he brought danger. Others demanded stronger protection, saying the attack proved he was important. Daniel stood in the center again, fist tight, jaw hard. He wanted to scream at them, to remind them he was not their tool, but he stayed silent, watching their divisions grow. The High Chancellor raised his hand. "Enough," his voice echoed. "The human remains the chosen, but we face enemies among ourselves. Find them, root them out, or our future dies." The council agreed, but Daniel knew the truth. They would never all agree. Some wanted him alive, some wanted him dead, and those who wanted him gone would never stop. That night, as he sat in his chamber with Lyra, he spoke quietly. "They don't just hate me, they fear me." She looked at him with steady eyes. And fear is the most dangerous weapon. It makes allies into enemies. It makes peace into war. Daniel nodded, his mind racing. He had survived battles on Earth, but this was different here. The enemy wore the face of supposed allies. They hid in shadows. They struck without warning. They wanted him broken before he could ever rebuild their world. And yet, as Lyra sat beside him, close enough for their shoulders to touch, he felt something stronger than fear. They were no longer 2 strangers bound by the council's will. They were partners, trapped in the same fire. But the fire was spreading, and somewhere in the shadows of the city, knives were being sharpened once more. The hidden enemy would not stop until Daniel was destroyed, and the next strike, he knew, would be far worse than poison or blades. The days after the attack were tense. The city still glowed with its crystal towers, but beneath the light, fear spread like a sickness. Guards doubled their patrols. Servants whispered in corners, and the council argued louder than ever. The hidden enemy had not been caught, and Daniel knew they were waiting for another chance. He spent the nights awake, staring at the twin moons, his mind heavy with doubt. He had been chosen for a duty he did not want, hunted by people who wanted him dead, and bound to a woman who was supposed to be his guide, but was becoming something much more. Lyra sat with him often, silent at first, but silence was no longer enough. One evening, as the city lights shimmered in the distance, she finally spoke. "You cannot keep going like this," she said softly. "Every step you take, you carry the weight of my people. That weight will crush you if you do not share it." Daniel turned his eyes to her. "And who am I supposed to share it with? The council that treats me like a tool? The guards who wait for me to slip? Or you, who says this bond between us is forbidden?" Her face tensed, her lips pressing into a line. "It is forbidden, but rules do not change the truth." For a long moment, they sat in silence, the air thick between them. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to deny what was in his heart, but he could not. Lyra was no longer just his guide, no longer just the council's chain. She was the only one who saw him, the only one who understood. "Lyra," he said quietly, his voice rough, "do you hate me for this? For what they forced us into?" Her eyes glimmered in the pale moonlight. "I did at first. I thought you were nothing but another human soldier, careless and dangerous. But then, I saw you fight for life when no one wanted you to live. I saw you stand when others wished you to fall. And now, I see more." Her hand brushed his, soft and hesitant. Daniel felt the spark race through him. He should have pulled away, but he didn't. "You know what happens if the council learns of this?" he whispered. "I know," she breathed, "but I do not care." The space between them disappeared. Her lips met his, not in duty, not in fear, but in choice. For the first time since his fate had been sealed, Daniel felt free. But freedom came with a price. The very next day, the council called him again. The High Chancellor's voice thundered. "The city is restless. Our people grow weaker," and whispers of rebellion spread. "You must prove yourself. Chosen, you must show our people that you are worthy of the burden placed upon you." Daniel's jaw tightened. He had no choice. "And if I refuse?" The Chancellor's eyes flared. "Then your life ends here." When the council chamber emptied, Daniel stood with Lyra in the shadows. Her voice shook. "They're pushing you. They want to break you. If you follow their orders blindly, you will lose yourself. If you defy them, they will kill you. What will you choose?" Daniel stared at her, his heart pounding. The choice was clear to the council, but not to him. He could either obey and live as their prisoner, or defy and risk everything. But now there was more at stake. Not just his life, not just their survival, but her. "My heart says to follow you," he said, his voice steady. "Not them." Her breath caught. "Then you will stand against the council?" "No," Daniel answered, his eyes burning with quiet fire. "I will stand for us, for a future they can't control." Lyra's hand found his again, their bond no longer hidden in silence. They both knew the danger, but neither pulled away. That night, as the twin moons climbed high and the city slept, Daniel made his decision. He would no longer be the council's tool. He would no longer live by their rules. His duty was no longer just about survival. It was about love, choice, and building a future on his own terms. And somewhere deep in the city, unseen eyes watched from the dark. The forbidden bond had been discovered, and the hidden enemy now had the weapon they needed. The fires of the rebellion had dimmed, but the scars they left across the alien city remained. Towers once glowing with beauty were now blackened with smoke. Streets that once carried whispers of fear were silent with grief. The people had survived the trial of fire, but their world had changed forever. Daniel stood in the ruins of the nursery, his body still wrapped in bandages. Every step hurt, but the pain meant little. The children were alive, and that was enough. Around him, the aliens no longer stared with hatred. They looked at him with something new. Respect. Lyra walked beside him, her presence steady. The council had summoned them both to the great hall once again. But this time, the air was different, no longer filled with judgment. It was filled with uncertainty. The council had lost their control. Their people had seen the truth with their own eyes. The High Chancellor rose, his shimmering skin cracked from smoke, his voice carried across the chamber. The human has proven himself in fire and blood. He has done what many of us could not. He saved our young. He defended our city. He is no longer the chosen by our will. He is chosen by his own. Whispers echoed through the chamber. Some bowed their heads in shame, others in agreement. For once, Daniel was not standing as a prisoner. He was standing as a leader. But Daniel's heart was not on the council. It was on the woman at his side. Lyra's gaze met his, steady and unbroken. They had walked through hatred, through fire, through the weight of impossible duty, and now they stood at the edge of something greater. When the council demanded his next step, Daniel's voice rang out, calm but powerful. "I will rebuild your future," he said, "but not as your tool, not as your prisoner. I will rebuild it with my choice, with my strength, and with her." Gasps filled the chamber as his hand reached for Lyra's. The forbidden bond that had once been whispered in shadows was now revealed in light. One elder shouted, "This cannot be. The bond is against tradition." But Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear. "Tradition has already failed us. Hatred has already weakened us. If we are to survive, we must walk a new path, and I choose to walk it with him." Her words carried the weight of royal blood. The council could argue, but the people outside could not be silenced. Already, words spread through the city of a human who saved their children, of the princess who chose him, of a future no longer chained to old rules. The chancellor's voice fell silent, his eyes burned, but not with anger, with acceptance. "So be it," he said at last. "From this day, the human is no longer prisoner. He is no longer outsider. He is one of us." Cheers rose from the chamber. And for the first time since he had stood alone in judgment, Daniel felt the weight lift from his shoulders. That night, as the moon shone over the wounded city, Daniel and Lyra stood together on the balcony of the high tower. The air was cool, the silence filled with promise. Lyra turned to him, her voice soft. "Do you regret it? Choosing this path?" Daniel smiled faintly, his hand tightening around hers. "No, they decided my fate, but I chose my heart. And with you, I can rebuild more than their future. I can rebuild mine." Her eyes glimmered with quiet joy. And for the first time since the council had bound them, they shared a moment not of fear or duty, but of love. Beyond the tower, the city stirred with new life, people rebuilding homes, children laughing despite the smoke, a civilization scarred but breathing again. The council had judged him, the rebels had tried to kill him, fate had tried to bind him, but Daniel had written his own ending, not with chains but with choice. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in gold, a new beginning rose, not just for the aliens, not just for their future, but for a human and a princess who had defied everything to stand together.